The Mosaic account records that the name of the waters, Mara, was given due to this bitterness. Mara in Hebrew is derived from mar or maror, which means bitter. But the Hebrew root mar has deeper meaning and points to the source of the bitter waters. When the Lord established the Passover meal, He required the Israelites to eat 3 specific items: a male lamb without blemish, unleavened bread, and bitter herbs. There is general agreement among scholars that the bitter herbs are meant to represent the bitterness of living under the Egyptian yoke. The Lord doesn't explain His intent with the bitter herbs, but He did say that the unleavened bread was a remembrance of Israel's hasty departure. This would support the idea that the herbs are a remembrance of Israel's bondage. Which bitter herbs were to be eaten was never specified by the Lord. He only specifically required maror, which, in the Hebrew, means bitter things or bitter herb. Like the location name Mara, Maror comes from the primitive root mar. The Jewish Kabbalah has a different take on the reason behind the eating of bitter herbs during the Passover meal. The herbs are related to the planet Mars. Those eating the maror were not to remember the Egyptian bondage, but the bitter taste of wars and death, both symbolized by the red planet. According to Vedic astrology, the bitter taste is related to Mars. Indeed, astrology in general believes that Mars governs the bitter taste. Yet, the link between Mars and bitterness, as the Kabbalah intimates, is deeper. The very name of the red planet Mars signifies death. This was the opinion of the famed German philologist Max Müller. Müller's opinion is supported by the fact that the etymology of the name Mars tracks back to the ancient Indo-European root mar, which forms the basis for numerous modern words related to death. In other words, all words derived from this ancient root have a connection to death. This would include the maror eaten during Passover and the waters of Mara. It also means that these same words have a deep linguistic association with the red planet. When the burning star wormwood descended towards Earth, it not only made the waters bitter, it brought death to those who drank the water. The waters were not simply bitter to the taste, they were fatally toxic as well. Given that the source of these waters was the planet Mars, it is reasonable to conclude that the waters of Mara were also poisoned by the source, again Mars. The Mosaic account does not explicitly say that drinking the waters of Mara were fatal. The taste was unpalatable, causing the Israelites to grumble, but nothing more. But the Lord's covenant suggests that the waters were, in fact, diseased. His promise that he would not bring the diseases upon Israel as he had upon Egypt implies that the bitter waters were one of those diseases. The likelihood is that Mars, the planet of pestilence as well as death and bitterness, infected the waters of Marah in addition to making them bitter. Drinking the waters meant more than a bitter taste. It meant death.